How you feeling? Really high. Okay.
Welcome back, fellow psychonauts. I hope you've been doing well, keeping safe and all that. Today I want to go back 15 years ago to the height of Salvia's popularity. As you probably already know, Salvia was legal in almost every state just 15 years ago, because for a long time people didn't know how to get off on Salvia, so it was just labeled as a suspect hallucinogen. That is until Daniel Siebert discovered what the potent psychoactive chemical was in the 1990s. And once entrepreneurs found out how to capitalize on this substance, extracts were born, and it has had an effect on the youth. Throughout the 2000s, YouTube videos started popping up more and more frequently of people having their salvia trips on camera with their friends. Largely because of these YouTubers, it was a catalyst for parents to start fearing this substance. It got to a point where the substance was featured on the show The Doctors. The Doctors was a spin-off show from Dr. Phil, and Dr. Phil was a spin-off show from Oprah Winfrey, and none of these shows were the most credible. The Doctors was known from time to time to give sketchy advice and say things that weren't proven, and boy, this episode is just full of those moments. And yes, they actually brought somebody on to smoke salvia in front of a live TV audience. So without further ado, let's jump into this video and unpack this heap of garbage.
Parents, listen up. Today's show could save your child's life.
Okay, I have to stop it right there, right off the hop. First sentence, blatant lie. At this time and as of today, there is absolutely no evidence that salvia is lethal. So right out of the gate, they just blatantly lied without any evidence.
This is salvia. It's a hallucinogenic drug that's smoked, and it's actually legal in 38 states, including right here in California. Teens are doing it every day, and it may be putting their health in jeopardy. So today, for the first time on television, we're going to show you exactly how dangerous salvia really is.
I know that people think that it's more responsible to tell people not to do drugs and to just say they're bad and stay away from it, but that is just not the truth. The safest thing you could possibly do is to give honest and neutral information about these substances. Misinformation doesn't actually help the people who have used it and continue to use it. Oh boy, but we're just getting started.
Disturbing teenage drug trends. This is a show every parent must see. It's like LSD. It's legal. And once you're hooked, you can't get clean without medical help.
Okay, so that was just a rapid succession of fear-mongering and misinformation. The fact that they showed all these close-ups of parents and their concerned faces signals to other parents that watch the show, which is predominantly mothers and housewives. They are making this episode with that target audience in mind. They aren't really out to protect children. They are out to sensationalize and fearmonger to parents. Every parent should know about this and be given honest information. They say this so often, and it bugs me so much, is that they compare it to LSD. It goes to show how surface level, if at all, they understand psychedelics. Salvia is similar to LSD in only that it's psychedelic and visionary, but qualitatively and by any other metric, it is nothing like LSD. Salvia is closer compared to DMT, but even there are stark differences between salvia and DMT.
And once you're hooked, you can't get clean without medical help.
There is absolutely no evidence at that time and to this day that salvia is addictive. The fact that they said once you're hooked, you're gonna need medical help to come clean again, where did that information come from? They just made that up. And again, these are doctors, professionals that we go to get accurate information. Salvia is not addictive. There are dangers when it comes to salvia, but it's not addiction.
The cheese heroin problem in the city's public schools has exploded.
Are like most of your friends like always up?
Yeah, most of the time.
It's one of the cruelest drugs around, devastating lives, and now there's a new form that appears to target teens and kids. On the street, teenagers are calling it Strawberry Quick.
We'll meet those teens later in the show and tell you the surprising warning signs you need to be on the lookout for. Strawberry Quick, cheese. These are dangerous drugs these kids are doing. One of the biggest new drug trends right now is a hallucinogen. It's called salvia. You know, you can go to your local smoke shop or go to the internet and buy it. You know, chances are you probably haven't heard of it, but you need to, because what's most shocking, This is an LSD type drug and it's legal.
Okay, yeah, so they compared it to LSD. Again, they made a direct correlation that these drugs, strawberry quick and cheese, are lumped into the same category as this hallucinogen, salvia. Cheese is Tylenol or cold medicine mixed with some heroin. This phenomenon wasn't really that big, but these talk shows really like to sensationalize and make these things sound like there are much bigger problems than they were. And then when it comes to strawberry quick, that was completely fabricated. There's no such drug as strawberry quick. They were just so quick to jump on that train and start demonizing, start fear-mongering against this drug that didn't even exist. It's actually very similar to the dihydrogen monoxide prank that was pulled on a lot of politicians and anti-drug advocates. In case you haven't heard about this, people were trying to sensationalize dihydrogen monoxide, that if you got too much, that it could be lethal. People die from it every year. Dihydrogen monoxide is water. It's just another way of saying H2O. But nonetheless, some politicians fell for this prank and they were like so quick to say like, stay away from this drug, it's so bad. Oof. So now in this next scene, they actually bring on a volunteer to smoke salvia in front of this live audience to get the reaction. I guess these guys have never heard about set and setting when it comes to psychedelics, but you know, these are health advocates and they're just tripping on salvia on this talk show, so let's watch.
What we're watching right now in the procedure room is Michael Yang taking a hit of salvia. It's a legal hallucinogenic drug. It's going to take him a minute or two before he feels the full effects. And right now, as he's taking the second hit, this drug is entering his lungs and going directly through his blood into his brain. And very soon, this hallucinogen is going to not only affect the way his brain works, but also how his body functions.
How you feeling? Really high. Okay. Let's try to walk.
And we're going to have Dr. Stuckey escort him because, as I said before, salvia can affect your motor skills. And he appears very wobbly, which is normal after you've taken salvia.
Doing great. It's driving like this. That's what I wouldn't do. Just talk as we're walking. Exactly how you're feeling. Give us your reactions to everything you're feeling as we're moving out here. What are you experiencing right now? The walking is very challenging. It's that feeling of walking on clouds almost.
First big problem there is that when somebody trips on salvia, it is best to stay where you're at. They were telling the truth there that it does affect your motor skills, hence why it's not comparable to LSD, because with LSD, it's fun as hell to go on hikes and stuff like that. Salvia, stay where you're at, find a comfy place, and, you know, experience what you're going to experience. Do not smoke salvia and then go try to do any task or move to a different location or anything like that. Although I do want to give them a mild applaud for getting the audience to be quiet and speaking very gently to the user. Because that is something even a lot of people who tripped and uploaded their video onto YouTube didn't do. You hear these people talking loudly and laughing and like trying to trip them out. These guys, they actually at least took it seriously enough to like talk gently. That being said though, like it would have been even better if they just didn't do it on camera or just didn't have a TV audience there.
What are you feeling, Michael?
You know, it's difficult to describe. It's as if you have pressure coming out from the inside of your hands and from the inside of your body. You don't lose control of your hands, obviously, but it's very difficult to be articulate, to speak to you right now. It's almost like, I definitely don't think I could drive, but I could obviously stagger across the stage.
How do you feel emotionally?
It's hard to focus. It's almost as if you had a viewer watching you within yourself, which I know sounds absolutely ridiculous, but it's that the feeling of being yourself within your body is lost.
The effects that he's describing right here is dissociation. It's very similar to DXM or ketamine, and this shows that he took a low enough dose to not be psychedelic. You're only experiencing the dissociative effects. Honestly, I'm actually very grateful that they didn't do a high dose. Salvia is a typical psychedelic because it is a dissociative psychedelic. It somehow fits both categories at once. At lower doses, you will feel more dissociative effects than visionary effects. When he's talking about viewing himself like as like an avatar almost, this is something known as depersonalization. It's affecting your interoception, your sense of your body and belonging in your body. It's one of the effects that you will feel on lower doses, and it becomes much more exaggerated on higher doses.
Now, you were telling me before one of the experiences that you were having was that whatever you were viewing in front of you was in existence, and the things that were behind you that you could not see were actually felt like they physically disappeared.
I'm not feeling that now, but that is a feeling that you get where the things that are not within your field of vision are not within your reference point of reality.
The feeling of things behind you or not in your peripheral not existing anymore is very similar to archetypes of the zipper or pages. It's like the fabric of your reality is just what you're perceiving, and then behind you is the void. And I think that's really interesting because if you took higher doses to where you would be hallucinating things, that perception of things not existing in your perception is very closely tied to zippers and pages, I find in trip reports.
An anxious, kind of dark feeling before the first time. Are you feeling that now?
Not as much as I felt prior, but it's almost like a generalized anxiety. And just sitting here is kind of physically uncomfortable in my chest, in my hands.
That uncomfortableness that he's describing is known as dysphoria. Salvia is considered a dysphoric drug as it agonizes kappa opioid receptors. Dysphoria is basically the opposite of euphoria. It's just an uncomfortable feeling, pins and needles, anxiety, all those sorts of things. And often that sense of foreboding or fear is also associated with that dysphoria.
Are you still feeling the effects?
Much better. I have to tell you that and it's only been a couple of minutes, as you guys have been standing here talking, when I walked out, your world is here. You know, maybe 2, 3, 4 feet. I'm really glad to have good Dr. Stuckey here with me, otherwise there's no chance I would have made it from there to here. And it's amazing to see something so quick take you completely out of yourself, out of your norm, and then deposit you right back into your normal state.
I actually find this part really interesting because I really like hearing confirmations that there are common phenomenon when taking this psychedelic, and that a perception of the only thing that exists is right in front of you also lends to another archetype of feeling like you're on a TV show or a talk show, kind of like this one. You can see how psychologically our brain could make that connection. If the only thing that really exists is right in front of you, that's basically the same thing as something like a sitcom, where you know that there really is no upstairs or basement to this suburban family's house. It's like our brain makes models of all our surroundings. Me, as a sober human being, knows that outside my apartment, outside these walls are other apartments. But on Salvia, what's not in your peripheral just doesn't exist. So it can feel like your life is like a Truman Show or just props being set up and staged in front of you. Terms like theater of consciousness comes to mind a lot too. So that's it for this video. I hope you found that entertaining. Next week, I'm going to be tackling Dr. Phil, who also talked about Salvia on his show, airing very closely together with the doctors in 2007, I believe. And the representation on Dr. Phil's show is actually much worse than on the doctors, unsurprisingly. So stay tuned for that next week. Make sure you subscribe so you will be notified when that is released. Comment down below strawberry cheese emojis so I know you're a real one. Please like this video even if you didn't like it, because since I focus on Salvia content, YouTube really doesn't like promoting my channel whatsoever. Basically all of my views are from people who are subscribed to me and Reddit. So any way that you can help out this channel is just super appreciated. Speaking of which, these patrons here make these YouTube videos possible, and I really can't thank them enough. If you would also like to be a financial contributor, you can go over to patreon.com/interbeingart or make a one-time donation on paypal.me/interbeingart. I created new goals on Patreon so that once I reach these goals, I'm gonna do fun videos as a reward, so you can check that out. I also from time to time post exclusive content on Patreon, so if you would like to get extra bonus content, you can find that there. Thank you so much for watching. Trip safe, and I'll see you next week.
Researcher Michael Yank smoked salvia to help create awareness about how dangerous it is.
How you feeling?
Really high.